okay? Every conservative that's trying to fucking engage in any kind of defensive posture here is literally so incredibly aware of how over the situation is. We're live. Let's get started. Trump's arraignment the broadcast is here. We're going to get immediately into Trump's arraignment. As I told you earlier, we dress up on days like this. You know what I mean? I go to my friend's wedding. I'm not dressing up. Trump's arraignment, I'm right here. No mugshot, I know. But let's just get started. Trump, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump, the 45th president of the United States of America, has pled not guilty to 37 federal charges that range from espionage, that range from collusion to withhold information, that range from obstructing justice charges, and holding on to classified documents long after he was allowed to hold on to it with the full knowledge that they were actually classified documents. We've talked about it extensively. And my boy is in Miami today, and he has pled not guilty to 37 federal charges. Here we go.
That's the standard. Then you had Mike Pence, who had classified documents in his home. Then you had Joe Biden, who had classified documents spread across the country in different boxes, including unsecured in his garage. If Trump's going to be indicted, so too then should be Joe Biden. I also can't get beyond the fact that every time we find corruption, evidence of corruption on Joe Biden, Donald Trump gets indicted. I mean, that's what I see just as an everyday American, as someone who hasn't seen eye to eye with Donald Trump, and that's how we're going to operate. I don't think it's the right way, and I think it's shameful what's happening today.
I'm going to say some stuff here, okay? Every conservative that's trying to fucking engage in any kind of defensive posture here is literally so incredibly aware of how over the situation is, okay? They are so incredibly aware of it that they can't really say, oh, this is a witch hunt, these charges are bullshit. Like, they literally are just basically stating, well, Joe Biden maybe did some stuff. Hillary Clinton did some stuff. Hillary Clinton wasn't arrested. Isn't that fucked up? And it's like, okay, well, you can't go to court with that. You can't take that to the motherfucking bank, buddy. You can't just walk up to a judge on your personal criminal court case and say, Your Honor, I've done a murder. Sure, you caught me red-handed. Fine. But think about all of the other people that also have done murders that have not been arrested for it. That only works maybe for the fucking idiots, okay? Maybe for the dumbasses. And even those dumbasses are probably looking at that. They love Trump anyway. They love Trump anyway. They already love him. They think that it's like this special prosecutor is gay and a secret agent of the pedophile vampires that are in charge of the government or whatever the fuck, right? So those guys were already not very fond of Donald Trump. I mean, super fond of Trump and not very fond of anyone who is Donald Trump's enemies. Does this actually harm him in the eyes of moderates? I do think so. Absolutely. I do absolutely believe that. This situation actually kind of dramatically changes the Republican primary a little bit. Now, there are 37 counts here. And what I have seen so far and what I've talked about thus far with respect to like what the Republicans are leaning on, Donald Trump needs to get rid of all 37. He can't just say like, oh, it's fine. Like Donald Trump's team needs to get rid of fight against all 37 charges. However, Fox News broadcasters and people like Lindsey Graham are basically trying to focus on one or two and going, well, they're overcharging him. And it's like, yeah, but there's like dead to rights charges in there that already have so much verifiable, factually accurate information. Like Donald Trump's firsthand accounts of Donald Trump openly stating that he knew that these documents were classified and whatnot, that he's absolutely cooked. Like, that's all you need. You don't need 36 charges. You need one. So you're fucking cooked. You're absolutely cooked. And conservatives basically recognize that, which is why this time around, they're not talking about like the Alvin Bragg DA case. They're trying to do whatever DNA, fingerprints, recordings, witnesses. It's comprehensive. Exactly. The feds don't fuck around. I understand why they get like 96% conviction rates now. I mean, the federales, they don't fuck around, dog. I really thought that they fucked around, but turns out the only one who was fucking around and finding out was Donald Trump, okay? I mean, it's crazy. It is actually crazy. But also, Donald Trump, very criminal guy. He is the absolute worst at doing crimes, and he has done it so consistently. He is, as I said, the perfect person to be in the crosshairs of the federal agents for a crime that normally would be like maybe like a rule-breaking situation, but he does it in such an awful, flagrant, abusive way that it all of a sudden turns into a federal crime. You know what I mean? It's perfect. But yeah, he is now under arrest and booked on federal charges. Former President Donald Trump, 46 minutes ago, according to CNN, is under arrest and booked on federal charges. And what an incredible way to go out. He was heading to the court and he was still posting up until he was arrested. He is a true poster, 100%. The greatest, the GOAT, the most goated poster president of all fucking time, okay? Straight up. Straight up. Feds usually also take years at some times to complete large investigations. This took like 6 months. This means Trump sucks at crime, just awful. Yes. But can you really blame him? This is the question I have on my mind right now, and I'm sure plenty of you are also thinking. And the answer is not really, because he kind of got away with it his entire life. He has never actually seen any criminal punishments for all of the crimes that he has engaged in, so much so that he's basically used to just saying, like, what are they going to do? Arrest me? Get the fuck out of here. I'm Donald Trump. I'm the motherfucking president, dog, which is fine. But unfortunately, he's no longer president. So when you're no longer president, well, then it doesn't matter. When you're no longer president, you're just the guy. You're just some guy. You know, Teflon Don, big chink in the armor, okay? Turns out 70 plus years of just like failing upwards and doing crimes in broad daylight, openly. Things that other people would have gotten absolutely destroyed over. He thought he could get away with, and he got comfy. He got comfy. He wasn't even trying to he didn't have any of that paranoia that most, rugged criminals have that render them, that incapacitates them, but also basically forces them to cover up their footsteps and their tracks regularly. Donald didn't do any of that. He was out in broad daylight doing that shit. He was like, what's up? It's fine. I'm doing crimes here. I'm doing crimes. I'm fully aware that I am doing crimes right now. This is the crime I'm doing, the specific crime. Here's the rule in the rule book that says I'm not allowed to do it. Here is me doing it. Here, take a photo. That's it. That's our situation. I love it. How can you not? There are no transgender children, only abused parents, says Steven Crowder. We're going to get to that, but let's take a look at this situation
negotiations
and
with the
send me
Trump
some
team.
links, and we'll take a look at it.
In a matter of weeks or days, all of this was drawn out over probably a year and a half, maybe longer, because I've talked to sources within the FBI as well as within the Department of Justice who insist that they did not want to be here this day where a former president was indicted in a case like this. They tried to appeal to the former president to turn over
Republican leadership was counting on full attendance today to force VP Harris to come break the tie on Jared Bernstein, but Senator Tuberville missed the cloture vote just now, so Republicans are furious. Tuberville's headed to Bedminster for Trump's event tonight.
Has pleaded not guilty to 37 federal counts in
37 counts. He's not crying. He has a throat injury. Dude, also, another criminal justice system W. The Romanian prosecutors have changed human trafficking charge against Andrew Tate. They added a more serious condition, it seems. Like, this title makes it seem as though, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if I'm, misreading it, but it does seem like they changed it and they added a separate victim on top of it. So now there's not 5, but 6 victims. And the legal framework has been revised and altered to ensure impartial investigation is upheld, they said in a statement. So we got that situation going on. We'll talk about that as well. There's a lot of RIP bozos in the chat.
Kais, who's standing next to President Trump in the courtroom, first was brought in full disclosure, he was a partner of mine in my firm before he left to represent President Trump. By all reports, he counseled President Trump to cooperate with the DOJ to try and get these documents back. And the fact is, it's the same standard. If he had done that, we would not be here today. Instead, it's the criminal obstruction. It's the lying. It's the false statements. It's the hiding. It's the lying to his counsel. That's why we're here today.
Scott Frederickson, thank you. And on that note, then, how limited are Trump's attorneys in terms of addressing this case? What would be their best defense?
Well, the best defense here is now that you're indicted, you've got to go 1,000% with all the motions to try and knock out as much evidence as possible. Jack Smith has anticipated that. The beauty of this talking indictment is it anticipates these arguments that somehow he had them by mistake, or he didn't understand, or he could declassify. The indictment rebuts that on its face. They're going to challenge use of classified documents by the government. The government has to be careful about putting, classified documents out there, and there's a complicated procedure, the CIPA, which will govern that. So they'll go at that. So these
yes, Donald Trump has officially been released without conditions.
Huge burden.
I want to point to something here. Okay, here's one I guess hurdle in the way
because it should be something that's
of justice being served,
and you really can't get away with political prosecution.
The only hurdle in the way of justice being served in this situation is that, as far as I understand, this judge is a partial one, not an impartial one. Keffel's Bo Black's drama, just fucking shoot me directly into the sun on a fucking rocket ship. If you think that I'm going to talk about some fucking YouTube essayist, probably, I don't even know who the fuck the other person is, you're out of your freaking mind, okay? Oh my Lord.
I think too long.
I don't even know what the other person does. I am not even remotely interested in it. Never come to me with some of that foo-foo shit ever again. Okay? I don't want to fucking hear about it. I don't want to ever know about it.
To say that we're not
I'm
a
going to
country where one
reset
party
my mind and
weaponizes the
forget that
Justice
it even
Department against
exists.
another.
Okay?
We're a country where we, the people, get to decide who governs this country.
Don't ever do that.
Where every person's voice and vote counts equally. That's not a Democrat idea. That's not a Republican idea. That's a 1776 ideal. And I think we're in a moment where people are hungry for reviving that. That's why I'm in this race.
So,
oh my God. By the way, there's some really, really funny. There's some really funny speculation swirling around about Vivek, who's basically like negative polling somehow. Nobody knows how it's possible, but he's the one guy who's gotten negative polling numbers. They're claiming that he's going to drop out of the race and like will endorse Trump or something, which I feel like will hurt his chances. So I don't know what he's doing. I don't even know why Fox News is trying to make it happen, but I guess like they just don't give a shit. As long as you have money, they're like, no, it's great. You have money. You're a brown guy that's saying like, the Democratic Party is racist and woke, and wokeness is a problem. Like, here, you can come and talk on Fox News. Like, we love you.
The outsider. When you're talking about bringing transparency and accountability to the administrative state, now even the police aspects of the administrative state, I think that job does take an outsider. I think you get to be an outsider once, and I'm the outsider in this race.
Before I let you go, what are the chances that Donald Trump is not the nominee in your mind right now?
I'm in this race because I believe I'll be the nominee, to be really honest with you. But I want to build on the foundation that he laid.
Okay, bro.
I think he rolled a log over showing a lot of the administrative state's corruption. Problem is, if you roll that log over and see what crawls out, you better bring the pesticide. So I'm learning from 8 years of watching, the last 8 years, including his 4 years in office, to say we're going to build on that foundation. He identified the problem, but I'm here to lead the country forward to actually solve them and revive, really, America first to the next level. That's what I think it means to actually put America first. Let's rediscover what America is. That's what I'm in this race to do.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, no, that's like, yeah, I don't know why they're doing that. I don't know why he's doing that. Like, little bro, that's not happening for you. You know what I mean? Give up on that.
About the indictment, it did not change their opinion of former President Trump.
Remember, Vivek is the guy, for those of you who don't know, who apparently stopped looking for the cure of cancer because the company that he was in charge of that was trying to find a cure for cancer went woke. So, like, his villain origin story in and of itself is already fucking hilarious, okay? These are the types of people that, like, the more I hear about them, the more I love how goofy and how stupid they are. Big time fan of Vivek. Love what he's doing. Congratulations. You know, the Republicans needed another, like, Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard style crank. Because they're not picking those up from the Democratic Party enough. You know what I mean? So now they want one of their own.
Information and those new poll numbers. Thank you. It is just after 3:30 p.m. in the East. And for those of you just joining us, we are here in Miami witnessing history unfold in this federal courthouse behind me. Former President Donald Trump is now officially a criminal defendant after being arraigned on charges linked to his mishandling of classified documents. Trump, through his attorney, pleaded not guilty to the 37 federal counts against him.
Yeah, we're going to do Twitter Hog Talks. We're going to do Hog Talk. Hold up. Don't worry.
The United States, former or current, has
Trump is
faced federal charges. CBS's Scott McFarlane was inside the courtroom, and he joins us now with new details.
Is crime still good? Crime has never been better.
Nor the
Crime is so good. Look, we love crime on this broadcast, okay? So maybe you're going to be confused when I say, I think they should free my man. He did a crime. But however, as crime aficionados, there is one type of crime that we do not like. Because we love crime on this broadcast, because, you know, we're Californians, I've literally voted time and time again on the ballot specifically to legalize crime in general. I also do like criminals who engage in the art of the crime. Donald Trump at this point is kind of fucking hand-waving it. He's basically doing the crime, but he's doing it in a way that's very sloppy, and I don't like that. As someone who appreciates crimes, I like when people put a little bit of effort into it. And for that reason, I do think Donald Trump should be punished, even though, you know, he should be freed, because across the board, I am pro-crime, and crime is good. Yeah, that's my take. Gavin Newsom destroyed Hannity last night. I know. We're going to watch that as well.
Submitted to Trump's attorneys, and they will agree that those witnesses on that list will not communicate with the former president about the facts of the case. They will still be able to communicate as they would in normal daily life, but they won't be able to talk about the case. The other condition is that he cannot talk to Walt Nauta, his co-defendant, about the facts of the case either, because they're co-defendants.
I
like criminals who don't get
was
caught.
Traveling with the former president this weekend in campaign stops. So there's a list that'll be created and likely litigated of people with whom the former president cannot speak about this case, potentially including his employees and his close allies. The release conditions.
Yeah,
you
definitely. Donald Trump will certainly follow through on that. It's like, that is literally worse than throwing him in solitary confinement without access to Fox News. Okay? Donald Trump got into this mess to begin with because he can't shut the fuck up. He literally loves flexing. If you think he's not going to talk to people around him, if you don't think he's going to go back to Mar-a-Lago and tell every fucking jet ski dealership owner the exact details of the case, including some who he may have collaborated with, I don't know what to tell you. He is going back to tweeting. Okay? He's going back to tweeting.
Who's
He's
sitting
a
at the
true
same defense
socialite.
table. At this moment, they appear to be halfway through.
Scott McFarlane, thank you. It's a moment to take a look at exactly where we are, John, now that the president has been arraigned, still inside this courthouse for more than an hour and a half. Donald Trump now faces a number.
Florida Andes, is that Brickell? For the record, I have to admit I am partial. Miami is where I lived for the first time in America. That was the first place I ever lived. the irony of if it is Brickell, if it's downtown Miami, the irony is like outside of that courthouse, most of those buildings came up in like the last fucking 10 years, basically. It's insane. Downtown Miami and its development has been absolutely psychotic, which is funny when you consider that like it's also going to be underwater. But anyway, that's a random aside here.
You know, that's
what were you going to say about the judge being biased? From what I understand, this judge is a Trump. This judge definitely favors Trump, and is not like expressly anti-Trump, or I mean, he is like openly pro-Trump. He's not like one of those like impartial rule of the law type judges. I mean, he is a Trump-appointed judge. However, it was a Trump-appointed judge that actually allowed for this. It was a Trump-appointed judge that allowed for the investigation to continue. It was a Trump-appointed judge that gave a subpoena, that signed off on a search warrant. So it doesn't really matter if one is a Trump-appointed judge. What matters is if he or she, because the previous one was a he, was a Trump-appointed judge who signed off on the search warrants. The judges sometimes will do this thing where they're like, yeah, well, I was Trump appointed, but like, I want to, they were both women. No, I thought the other one was a man. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, listen. Doesn't matter what the gender is, okay? Trump-appointed judges sometimes will still do this thing where they're like, oh, well, I care about the rule of law. So that's what matters. That's what matters. Okay? My favorite podcast, Mueller, She Wrote, has some sweet copium on this. I don't know how real this is, but according to Joyce White Vance from MSNBC, the CIPA, the Classified Information Production Act that governs this case, includes an immediate right on expedited appeal. So if the DOJ doesn't like a decision by Alien Cannon, they can go straight to the 11th Circuit. That gives DOJ not only the opportunity to appeal her substantive decisions, but it also gives DOJ an automatic trigger to ask the 11th Circuit to reassign the case to a different judge quickly. So, it ultimately, even if it is like, even if it's rigged in Trump's favor by this judge, they can just, move it around. But also remember, like, just go back to the fucking evidence. You know what I mean? And there's so much of it.
Evidence that would say to them that a drug-addicted, sex-addled kid, the President Biden's son.
They're not talking. I was like, let's look at the evidence. Fox News immediately not talking about the evidence. They're talking about Hunter Biden.
Of a crime here, that it wouldn't be seen as we were just going after him because he's the president's son.
Yeah, don't make him sound like the victim.
Look at who the prosecutor there is, Martha. This is a point I was making to you earlier. Think about it. Who's the prosecutor in Delaware? It's a Trump-appointed prosecutor. Who was the prosecutor when we were looking into all of this stuff? Again, Bill Barr, the Trump administration.
Look, if there's nothing there, then the case should be closed.
I mean, what is to say?
Yeah, it's still open. So that's the question. And I
apparently, it's getting a bit rowdy outside the courthouse, but not all that crazy.
Of an active president. Now you've got an.
I'm not gonna lie. Post January 6th, this is the only time I thought, because given that it's in Miami, given that there was like, prior knowledge that this was going to happen, I thought this would be one final hurrah. I thought maybe post January 6th, I know a lot of people are still terrified of getting arrested for protesting and shit like that. I thought maybe there would be a bigger crowd. I'm not kidding. They fell off. The Hogs have fucking fallen off, dude. Too short notice for this one to be any good. No, there's two reasons for this. Okay, there's two reasons for this. Remember, I told you guys this already. There is no fucking protest for an individual person in the Republican side that is not astroturfed. Turning Point USA would send buses full of people, then this is documented. Turning Point USA and every other Republican operative and Republican organization sent buses full of people to the Capitol. If you don't have the instruments of the Republican Party on your side, pushing for you and pushing to create chaos, you are individually not going to be able to create enough anger. The only people that are going to show up are the most insane, the most mentally ill. Okay? You need all of the HVAC business owners from Arkansas to come, to show up, to get angry, to get fucking wild. Two things have basically changed after January 6th. One, the sense of entitlement that they felt that in the eyes of the law, they would never get punished for getting unruly and breaking the law. That went away. These guys, they do have something to lose. They have something to lose. They don't want to lose their fucking jobs. They don't want to lose their businesses, right? They don't want to go to jail. So they're not going to do that shit. Two, so they're fearful of the law and fearful of the punishments that might come their way because, oh my God, it turns out the criminal justice system doesn't only work in my favor. Secondly, there is no astroturfing on this. And without astroturfing, this is all you get. And we're seeing it time and time again. This is like the third time that we have waited for like a major type of backlash, some kind of January 6th style situation to occur, and it hasn't happened. It doesn't happen when you don't have buses full of people that you're shipping from all around the country. When you don't have the American Enterprise Institute and the Heritage Foundation and the Turning Point USA and all of these other like Koch subsidized Republican organizations pushing for attendance. When you can't tap in to the Republican Party's infrastructure for this kind of protest, your protest turns into this. It's just 100 people. AstroTurfing, for those of you who don't know, is what Republicans claim the left does. Republicans, of course, are always projecting. They are pedophiles themselves, and then they turn around and say, if you're gay, you're a pedophile. If you're a supporter of LGBT, you're a groomer and a pedophile. When they say George Soros and astroturfing, that's yet another indication of projection. Now, does George Soros engage in astroturfing? Certainly. But the notion that, like, the Black Lives Matter movement across the board, or the notion that, like, the George Floyd protests were, like, astroturfed, i.e., for those of you who still don't understand it, paid for by event organizers who wanted to put bodies there, make it seem like there was much more broader support than there actually was. Well, you'd be wrong if you thought that about the George Floyd protests all around the country, and if not all around the world. The 2011 Tea Party is a great example, however, on the other hand, of an AstroTurf protest. Tea Party was directly created by the Koch brothers. All matter of Republican protests that you see, with the exception of some, not all, but some of the QAnon rallies, are usually astroturfed. That's why you only see 100 people max at the Trump arraignment. You don't see thousands of people. When it's actually genuine, when you have genuinely brought together 1,000+ people to fight for a cause, take it to the streets, that's known as a grassroots movement. Bernie Sanders' movement was a grassroots movement. Bernie Sanders' donations reflected that reality. That it was individuals that were actually paying into the campaign. It was actually individuals saying, like, no, I like this guy. AstroTurfing is when you do a fake grassroots movement, when you cultivate it by paying for it. And by the way, the Republican Party has a history of conservative mass protests that are disruptive that they've used to their advantage. Actually, as a matter of fact, in this exact zip code where they did the Brooks Brothers riots. The Brooks Brothers riots was conducted partially by Roger Stone, and it was yet another fake riot where actual Republican operatives were on the ground trying to stop an election recount from occurring, which they successfully did in the state of Florida. Some of those people that were on the ground became Supreme Court justices. Some of those people that were there to, offer some kind of legal defense were literally became Supreme Court justices of the United States. So that's how fucking astroturfed it was. Because back then, when that was happening, that was backed by the Republican Party's instruments, okay? That's the difference. If you don't have an AstroTurf Republican Party-backed fake protest, this is what you get. We want Trump! 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 Trump! We want Trump! We want Trump! There you go.